Hi, it's Michael and Anthony here presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for the current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, with Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service, we'll interview a different small business expert or a fellow business owner and get them to share their best tips and insights for you, the listeners. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. Thanks also to our supporters, Kerr Capital and the Small Business Mentoring Service. So welcome to today's edition of Small Business Banter. Really pleased to have with us today Leah Armstrong, who's the Managing Director of First Australians Capital, along with Jane Pound, who's an Executive Director at First Australians Capital. Leah is a Torres Strait Islander with more than 20 years business and not-for-profit experience. She works collaboratively with governments, community and the private sector. She has a range of other board interests, including the Foundation for Young Australians and some indigenous related task force. Jane has 25 years providing legal strategic advice across both the private and not-for-profit sectors, and she's dedicated the last 15 years or more to driving significant indigenous initiatives for social change. So we'll welcome in both Leah and Jane. Thank you for your time today. I might throw to you, Leah. And by the way, we have co-host Anthony Turner in from the Small Business Mentoring Service. But if you could give us a couple of minutes on what First Australians Capital is all about, that would be a great start.
Yes, certainly. And thank you very much, Michael, for the introduction and the invitation for Jane and I to talk to you today about, First Australians Capital. I'd like to also, though, start by acknowledging country. So I'm actually coming to you today from the land of the Awabakal people, which is in Newcastle, New South Wales. First Australians Capital has been around since 2016, and we strongly believed in the cultural and creative strengths of First Australians, and that these strengths will help build a vibrant and sustainable Indigenous business sector and drive positive outcomes for all Australians, both from a social and economic aspect. What we do is we actually help support startup and growth Indigenous businesses and help them to thrive. We provide them with opportunities and access to finance or capital as they need to start up or grow. But we also provide a service to support them with capacity building, access to networks, helping them gain networks or other expert advice from legal, marketing, accounting. So we actually hopefully provide a full service to First Australians who are looking to help start and grow their businesses.
Oh, that's excellent. Just again, to paint a bit of a picture, how large and how diverse is the Indigenous business sector as of today? No doubt you want to grow that, but how big is it today and what kind of businesses does it comprise?
Yeah, look, we estimate there's approximately about 12,500 Indigenous businesses. And recently, I think, we looked at the statistics and they're growing at 12.5% per annum. It's one of the fastest growing sectors, a small business sector in Australia. And, we see that, that it has tripled in the last 15 odd years, and that we forecast another, 8,000 or so more Indigenous businesses will start and grow over the next 10 years. So it is an amazing growth sector. And, a lot of that is also driven through the opportunities that are coming about through social procurement or procurement opportunities with the federal and state governments.
It's a pretty nice and healthy growth rate, Leah.
Absolutely. And, it's critical to have, Indigenous business and entrepreneurship as part of addressing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander socioeconomic outcomes. So, where they can be self-sufficient and have economic independence.
Yeah. Jane, your role, you've been with FAC is the acronym. How long have you been there, and what's your day-to-day activities?
Well, it's a bit of a long ramp to FAC as it is today, over sort of 10 to 15 years of working alongside Leah Armstrong, Jocelyn King and Adrian Appo to get FAC set up. But really my role today at FAC is in our impact capital team. So we look at capital and finance solutions for the Indigenous business sector. And it's a really quite a diverse sector. People are often surprised about the diversity, including tech startups, medical service businesses, facilities service businesses, beverage companies, sort of construction, fashion, arts and culture. It's a really diverse sector. So we've got a large pipeline of clients coming through at the moment.
It sounds like it's fairly reflective of the broader Australian economy with that sort of diversity of types of businesses.
Yeah, we like to say that it's not just about Indigenous businesses, but about Indigenous people in business.
Yeah.
It's a lovely way of putting it. I had the opportunity to do some work with one of the major construction projects recently where the social inclusion was becoming a very major part of that, the need for those organisations. So how does your organisation interrelate with, say, the major construction and or other organisations to help develop this awareness of Indigenous and social inclusion?
Yeah, look, we have a strong relationship with another organisation called Supply Nation, which has a particularly focus and agenda to supporting Indigenous businesses into the supply chain of major corporations and government agencies. So their role is to, open up those opportunities from a social procurement or a supply diversity aspect. But what our key role in supporting the businesses is most times when they have access to those opportunities will require some working capital, some access to working capital to get the contract started. They also may need some support with other expert advice, as I said earlier, around understanding what's in their contracts or dealing with their accounting and marketing opportunities. So we have a really good sort of, partnership and collaboration with Supply Nation. And we know there are other organisations that, as you mentioned, that are in the social procurement area, like social traders, and other groups or state-based groups, which we're there to collaborate with them and really support the needs of the Indigenous businesses to be able to have those opportunities.
There's on the website, there's some really very interesting companies. Do you want to talk about, to put into context the kinds of services you do provide? I know there's probably confidentiality and other constraints, but there was a couple of that took my interest. One was a beverage business, another one was a native foods, and then also a fashion business. Do you want to just talk about, firstly, those couple of businesses, and are they all for-profit businesses themselves, or are in turn some of them social enterprises?
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a meeting of the social enterprise and social business sector nowadays, and what we're finding is that many Indigenous businesses aren't just there to make money for the entrepreneurs, but actually have a much broader rationale and motivation for why they're in business. So, yes, often, they will be social businesses or social enterprises. So, for example, Sober Beverages, and they are up on our website, they're a non-alcoholic beverage company. They've just launched into 2 national retail chains. But, their rationale for being in business is to sort of set a healthy example of of a non-drinking culture and be positive role models to young people. So there are often multiple drivers at play of the Indigenous entrepreneur.
Yeah. Anthony.
Yeah, how well are these services known amongst community itself? How do you reach out to those people and bring forward those Indigenous personnel who really have the aspiration to do business but probably don't know how to go about it or where to go?
Yeah, look, it has, as I said, with the growth of Indigenous businesses over the last couple of years, there is a growing awareness within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community about the economic and business opportunities. There is a wealth of kind of networks, whether they're state-based or national networks, that are actually, supporting, the opportunities. As I mentioned earlier with Supply Nation, there are a number of different chambers. And we're also working with other Indigenous entrepreneurs who are actually setting up place-based or regional-based networks and relationships. So we have a business relationship opportunity manager in Broome, and one of their roles, as cultural capability, is to actually set up a little bit of a accelerator around the Kimberley area to network with Indigenous young people who are also looking at an opportunity to set up their own businesses, but also corporations that were maybe set up originally as native title or community services who want to sort of pivot their roles as well. We've also got a relationship with an Indigenous entrepreneur in Townsville in central North Queensland there. And again, their role is to support local Indigenous businesses to grow and start up in that particular region. And the same we have in another Indigenous entrepreneur in southeast Queensland. So I think, that growth and that awareness around the opportunities that Indigenous or the opportunities that business and economic development for community has grown significantly. What's probably not well known, Anthony, is probably, getting those stories out to the broader non-Indigenous community and the positive stories about how, like Sober Beverages, the opportunities that, their business is going to help in terms of young youth mental health. I mean, that's a criteria of what they're wanting to do. Nagali Fashion, they're now launching into David Jones as part of one of their suppliers, but their whole focus is around education too. They want to give back in terms of education in Indigenous communities. So, look, I think the more that we can have conversations that, bring to light in the broader non-Indigenous community, what Indigenous entrepreneurship looks like, I think would be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think also too, it's beholden upon, the non-Indigenous community to embrace, into local chambers of commerce and a variety of different other things, because I think we can all benefit from that interaction and the different businesses growing. Because at the end of the day, we're people and we're creating businesses, we're creating livelihoods, and we're trying to change the world.
Yeah, and we've also got 65,000 years of ingenuity and sophisticated networked governance systems that, can inspire the mainstream economy now. Mike, you mentioned before about native foods business. So, that we're seeing some really innovative agribusiness ventures such as Black Duck Foods that are looking at new agricultural systems for Australia that are going to open up more productive land way beyond where the Australian wheat belt currently grows. So, there's a lot of strength in 65,000 years of experience on the continent.
there's a lot to learn. And by the way, we are talking with Leah Armstrong, Managing Director, and Jane Pound, Executive Director of First Australians Capital. It's just this potential learning is amazing. We need to embrace that. That technology, fashion, the kinds of clients, you call them clients you work with, do they range from being a very early stage idea startup through to more established businesses? I mean, can you talk about, do you have particular expertise at working with early stage or later stage businesses, or do you just, you're happy to help and can help at either end of the spectrum?
Yeah, look, we are happy to help at either end of the spectrum. We do have people who have, just ideas, who just need a little bit of support or knowing where to start, who they're conversation with. And we also support the Melbourne Business School have a program called the Murra Indigenous Business program as well. So they're sort of well-established businesses are actually then looking at doing a Master of Business. So we support that program and have done for the last 5 years. And we see probably about 80 or so established businesses coming out of that. So no, look, we're really about just supporting Indigenous entrepreneurship across, the ideation phase right through to growth. So wherever possible, we'll support them.
If there's some major change that you could actually make happen now, to boost the Indigenous businesses and the integration and everything else, what would that be?
Oh, we definitely want to open up and broaden the capital and finance opportunities for this market. There's a whole range of mixed and flexible funding that would really help supercharge the Indigenous business sector at the moment, from debt to equity and patient capital in particular for some of these early stage ventures is going to be critical. So our aspiration is to set up a fund to back and support these businesses over the life cycle.
Yeah, Jane. So behind FAC, when did FAC start up? It was in the last few years?
Yeah, 2016 we were established, but as Jane said, we've been in the sort of development phase for quite a longer period. But officially 2016.
So the funding you're distributing, whether it be equity or capital, patient capital, or arranging debt, how does the FAC work? Is it bringing together philanthropic organisations to contribute some of that capital? Do you have arrangements with financiers to help you streamline the process of getting debt funding?
Yeah, so FAC itself and particularly to fund the capacity building work, we've been able to do with the generous support of our philanthropic partners. We're also leveraging partnerships with the likes of Westpac to provide sort of pathways for capital, whether it's the opportunities for mainstream finance, but we have got our own small investment pool at the moment that we also fund Indigenous businesses with. So it's all of the putting our own money into it. So it's all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I was actually going to sort of go back on the point I think that Anthony talked about, about with our Indigenous business, why they're not being able to access the normal kind of mainstream financings. A lot of our don't have that trading history that needs to be established, or they don't have the security that mainstream financiers require. So that's why the development of our own fund, which we can sort of target and provide that wraparound support for early stage businesses who don't have the trading history, who don't have the security, but we know that they are actually going to be successful. That's why, the patient capital approach, soft loan, the different types of blended finance is what our fund will deliver for our communities.
Yeah, it's exciting times ahead. You're encouraging anybody listening in just to contact you directly, we'll post details of your website on our show notes and in the podcast notes. But is that how, one of the things to take away from today, if you're listening and you've got a spark of an idea or even an established business, just to reach out and contact FAC directly?
Absolutely. Look, on our website, whether you're an Indigenous entrepreneur or someone who's looking at, growing their business, we've got our website. There's an information form for you to fill out, and that will come directly to us. And the same for potential people who are looking at what our investment opportunities are or our impact capital opportunities are. So, have a look at our website, and it's got some fantastic examples there of the types of businesses that we're working with, like Sober Beverages, Nagali, Black Duck Foods. So that's the best place to find out more about First Australians Capital.
So Leah, you might like to give us your website address.
Yes, www.firstaustralianscapital.org.
Well, we'll definitely promote that. Just to tie it together again, you talked about creating awareness and also, I guess, sharing some of that Indigenous knowledge through to other non-Indigenous businesses. I think that was your point, Jane. What can they learn from some of these innovative Indigenous businesses that like Black Duck Foods as an example? And drawing on all that long history, that long history.
Well, there's another sort of example that's just about to launch the market with Mimi and Jinder, so two Aboriginal artists that are now partnering with Adairs to launch a whole new range of bedding, linen, and homewares. So, there are opportunities for exciting partnerships, and I think also just reflecting on the enormous cultural capital and creative capital. I think that through working alongside Indigenous people and with Indigenous businesses, is going to benefit the Australian economy as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've in our COVID times is looking more internally about how we're going to have a more thriving small business sector across the board. And it sounds like a lot of your businesses are in regional areas, and potentially a lot of them also would be part of the broader tourism sector. So people make galleries and other bush food businesses. That's a good thing for everybody. That towns put themselves on the map with something like a well-known business to get more people into the town.
Yeah, look, absolutely, you're right. The unique opportunities that I guess the times that we're living in, where people who are looking for vacations at home, but want something unique and different. Well, Indigenous ecotourism. We have a number of businesses who are, established and are looking to kind of market themselves to the domestic market. There has over the years been a sort of a greater awareness and a greater willingness from international visitors to come and learn about Aboriginal culture in Australia. But now we see, the reverse of that with now the domestic market looking at opportunities. So we certainly are looking to promote that. And there's really great opportunities in that sort of native and natural environment areas as well. So, Indigenous knowledge is not that are actually being called upon to support sustainability from a natural capital in the sustainable land management practice area as well. And that's another growing interest for as many people now start to think about, the environment more broadly beyond just agriculture, but, the taking care of land and country so that we can have a healthy country for future generations.
How have non-Indigenous businesses that have got an interest to help develop this, is whether it's part of tourism or whether it's just incorporation of Indigenous culture into their existing businesses, how might they go about that? And are you the right point of contact, or is it best to speak to you first up?
I think a reflection of thinking about in Australia, the opportunities to do things a bit differently. And, certainly FAC, have a look at our website, and we're always happy to talk to potential partners about how they can get involved in supporting the Indigenous business sector.
We've got a lot of challenges in front of us, and Leah was just talking about, and you Jane, also the sustainability and drawing on all that knowledge from how things have been done more successfully, more sustainably in the past. And I can't but help feel like there's a really significant opportunities for non-Indigenous businesses to also to really open their eyes. You could say that there are some immediate short-term commercial opportunities around agriculture, tourism, because of the environment we find ourselves in, and an expectation that increased domestic tourism will be a real big part of our ongoing success. But as I say, it feels like it's time to open eyes and think about doing things in other new ways. And we just finished another conversation earlier today, and that individual had switched from one industry to another and was able to fortunately draw on some experiences to help shape the new business. And we're going to keep continually looking for newer and better ways to do things, and you need influences and inspiration to do that. Unfortunately, we do have to draw that. It was a fantastic chat, Jane and Leah. Thank you so much. We have been talking with Jane Pound and Leah Armstrong from First Australians Capital. Really wish you well with FAC, and we look forward to hearing lots of great stories about how FAC is going and its clients. It's a wonderful business, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Michael and Anthony.
Mark and Anthony.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. Anthony and I continue to be inspired by bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact Anthony or myself, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Anthony and I would love you to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.